Well, for more on this, we can cross to our correspondent Jan Onoszko in Rio. Jan, why are Flavio Bolsonaro's poll ratings improving?
Well, when Flavio Bolsonaro announced back in December that he would be standing as a presidential candidate and that he'd been given his father's endorsement, that announcement was really met with a lukewarm response by Bolsonaro's supporters. The reason is that they were divided about who they thought would be the best candidate to beat Lula in this upcoming election. Many of them wanted the candidate to be the Sao Paulo governor Tarcísio de Freitas, even though he'd already ruled himself out of the race. Back in July, he said that he wouldn't be standing as a candidate. And there was also a small but significant group of Bolsonaro supporters who wanted that candidate to be Michele Bolsonaro, the former president's wife. So what seems to have happened recently is that Bolsonaro's supporters have finally accepted his son as their candidate and they're now rallying around him. However, the improvement that he's seen in this latest poll that was conducted in February by Atlas, Intel and Bloomberg has to be qualified. According to the poll, Lula will still win in the first round. But because Brazil has a second round runoff if none of the first round candidates gets more than 50%, it's in that scenario where Flavio Bolsonaro has improved significantly. Back in December, polls gave Lula a 12-point lead over Flavio in a second-round scenario. In January, polls slashed that lead to around 4 or 5%. And now we see that Flavio has come out on top. Only just, according to the poll, he would beat Lula by 46.3% compared to 46.2%. So it's a wafer-thin margin. Even so, it's the first time that any of these polls has suggested that he may win this upcoming election.
All right, well, how important is the outcome of this election to the wider region and also to the rest of the world?
Well, Brazil is the biggest country in South America in terms of its population and also in terms of its economy. And the US has made its interest in the region absolutely crystal clear. Last year, the US published its national security strategy in which it said the Western Hemisphere must come under the US's sphere of influence. Donald Trump has put it even more bluntly. After the US invaded Venezuela to kidnap its president, Nicolas Maduro, Trump said that no one ever again would question the US's dominance in the region. However, the US is worried about Chinese influence in Latin America. The Chinese have been investing here in this region for decades now, and it's for that reason that Donald Trump has called a summit with Latin American leaders who are friendly towards him. That's going to happen on Saturday at Mar-a-Lago. The presidents of Argentina, Bolivia, Paraguay and Ecuador, all right-wing governments that are aligned with Trump, they're all going to be there. And the main topic of conversation will be how the US can reassert its influence in Latin America. President Lula, of course, will not be there. President Lula is seen as being very closely aligned with China. China is Brazil's top trading partner. Not only that, but the two countries are part of the BRICS bloc. It's an informal grouping of the world's leading emerging economies. And in fact, the BRICS bloc is seen as a threat to US interests because they want to replace the dollar as the main currency in transactions around the world. So no doubt President Trump will want Flavio Bolsonaro to win the election in Brazil later this year. So far, he's being tight-lipped about this. He hasn't said very much at all, but no doubt that will change as we get closer to election day in October.
All right, Jan, thank you very much for that update from Rio, Jan Onoszko.